Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about if I really think that there are infinite universes, and if there were, what would it mean for everyone and everything? I think the idea of infinite universes is one of those concepts that sits at the boundary between science and imagination, a place where physics starts to merge with philosophy. The notion that there could be countless universes, each with its own version of reality, feels both thrilling and unsettling. It invites us to look beyond the borders of what we know, but it also forces us to confront how limited our knowledge truly is. When I consider whether there might actually be infinite universes, my answer is cautious. It's not that I reject the idea outright. In fact, I think it could be true, but possibility is much different from certainty, and we shouldn't confuse what feels intellectually stimulating with what is scientifically supported. Right now, the evidence for multiple universes is more conceptual than empirical. It emerges from mathematical implications in cosmology and quantum mechanics rather than from anything we can directly observe or measure. For example, one major motive behind the multiverse hypothesis is the idea of cosmic inflation. The rapid expansion of space in the earliest moments after the Big Bang. Some interpretations of inflation suggest that our universe might be one bubble in a much larger frothing sea of universes, each with its own physical constants and separate evolution. That idea, sometimes called the eternal inflation model, has legitimate theoretical grounding. Yet, even then, it runs into a problem that plagues many ambitious cosmological hypotheses. It's ultimately untestable. If these other universes exist beyond our cosmic horizon, then by definition, we can't see them, we can't measure them, and we can't meaningfully confirm their existence. That doesn't make the theory meaningless, it just means that it occupies a strange place in science, a place where hypotheses aren't necessarily wrong, but also can't be verified. Much like the idea of God, the multiverse exists in that gray area between rational inquiry and metaphysical speculation. You could believe in it for philosophical reasons or because it gives a satisfying explanation for certain aspects of our universe, such as why the physical constants seem to be so precisely tuned for life, but belief in infinite universes would still be, at this stage, an act of intellectual openness rather than empirical conviction. It's also worth considering why the idea appeals to us so much. Humans tend to look for meaning in existence, and when reality feels limited or finite, we often imagine something grander beyond it. The multiverse gives us that scope. It tells us that everything could be possible, that every choice we didn't make might still unfold somewhere else. That kind of narrative is deeply addictive to the human mind. It softens the sting of regret, offers a strange sort of comfort, and gives us a sense of participation in something cosmic. Yet, it also raises profound questions about individuality and responsibility. If there truly were infinite universes, what would it mean for the self? Would your sense of identity matter if there were endless variations of you, each living out slightly different lives? Maybe in one universe you made a different choice in high school, and in another you took a different job, fell in love with a different person, or never existed at all. In that sense, you stop being a single entity and become more like a spectrum spread across possibilities. Free will, which we cherish as the hallmark of human existence, becomes diluted. Every decision you make would already exist somewhere else in its alternate form. You didn't choose one path and abandon others. You simply happened to find yourself in a universe where that particular outcome was realized. Philosophically, that's a fascinating but disorienting idea. It questions whether moral responsibility holds the same weight in a reality of infinite versions. If there are infinite yous, then some of them are good, some are terrible, and most are somewhere in between. Does that make the moral quality of any one action irrelevant? Or does it instead challenge us to focus even more on the singular experience we're living, since this universe is the only one we can directly influence? There's also the issue of meaning. Infinity has a strange way of erasing significance. If there are infinite worlds, infinite choices, and infinite outcomes, then nothing is truly rare or special. Every act of kindness, every invention, every love story would be repeated in countless other forms across the cosmic landscape. Some people interpret that as comforting, a reassurance that beauty and goodness are eternal, endlessly reoccurring. Others find it nihilistic, a suggestion that if everything happens infinitely often, then uniqueness and purpose collapse into redundancy. I tend to think it depends on how one views meaning in the first place. If meaning requires uniqueness, the multiverse undermines it, but if meaning arises from personal perspective and lived experience, then infinite universes don't cancel it, they simply contextualize it within a broader canvas. Science also complicates this discussion. In quantum mechanics, there is the well-known many worlds interpretation proposed by Hugh Everett in the 1950s. It suggests that every quantum event branches reality into multiple outcomes, each realized in its own distinct timeline. In one world, a particle goes left. In another, it goes right. Scaled up to the level of human experience, that would mean that every decision you make, down to the smallest motion, creates a new branch of reality. This idea isn't primarily meant as metaphysics, it's an attempt to account for quantum superposition without resorting to wave function collapse. And yet, the more one thinks about it, the more it begins to sound like philosophy again. Each world would be as real as ours, yet completely inaccessible. Essentially, an infinite set of realities existing in isolation, none aware of the others. If that's true, it changes the way we look at time, casualty, and chance. Luck, for example, would no longer be meaningful. You didn't get lucky, you just happened to be in one of the universes where an event favored you. Likewise, tragedy becomes relativized. Yes, something awful may happen here, but there's a universe where it didn't. Some might find peace in that idea, but I think it can also cheapen the weight of human emotion. Suffering feels real precisely because it is specific, not one of infinite interchangeable possibilities. If every event happens somewhere, then in one sense, nothing truly happens anywhere. It's all flattened into an endless pattern containing every variation, every permutation, and every possibility. So what would infinite universes mean for everyone and everything? I think it would make existence both more mysterious and more impersonal. The universe we know would lose its exclusive significance, but it might gain a kind of universality. A recognition that a reality is just one iteration of something infinitely larger. For some, that would reinforce humility, an acceptance that we occupy only a small corner of a boundless multiverse. For others, it could feel alienating. If everything exists somewhere, what makes this version of existence matter at all? Personally, I think meaning is not found in how vast reality might be, but in how we respond to the slice of reality we're given. Whether or not infinite universes exist, we still experience this one as the totality of our awareness. That alone makes it meaningful. The potential existence of other versions of us doesn't negate the responsibility to live well here. It simply reminds us that consciousness is situated, that each of us will only ever inhabit one thread of possibility fully. In the end, the idea of infinite universes is less about physics and more about perspective. It challenges us to think beyond our limitations, to reimagine what we mean by existence, choice, and identity, but it also teaches humility. We don't know whether there are infinite worlds, and for now, we can't know. That uncertainty isn't a flaw, it's part of what makes inquiry human. So do I really think there are infinite universes? I think it's possible, maybe even plausible in some theoretical frameworks, but until we find a way to move beyond speculation into observation, it remains a poetic vision, one that tells us more about our longing to understand than about the universe itself. And if there are truly infinite worlds out there, then somewhere, some version of me might have found proof of it, but the version speaking these words is still wondering and still asking questions that may have never have final answers. Thank you for watching and have a good day.